Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Roma Press live stream. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to just do a very simple preview of the match that awaits us on the weekend against Fiorentina. We will also try and make sense of what's going on with the situation between Jose Mourinho and Serie referees, and in particular the FIGC, so the Italian Federation, which is now investigating Mourinho for what he said prior to the match against Sassuolo. And this could obviously result in yet another suspension for the special one. So today we're going to try and come up with also some other talking points. I want to remind you all that whatever questions you may have, whatever other topics you want me to touch upon, please write it down in the chat, and I'll make sure to read it and react to it. So thank you so much for joining me, those of you who are here today. I don't expect too many people to join in because obviously we are, for the first time, I think, in a long while, as in playing actual football, not during an international break, where we don't play during the week and where we get to prepare for a whole week, and where our opponent, in this case Fiorentina, didn't have the same privilege. They played last night against Parma, obviously still resting some players in Coppa Italia, but still the Viola ended up winning the match against Parma on penalties, so they had to play also extra time, and we'll see what that means for Vincenzo Italiano and his men ahead of the weekend. So I just wanted to once again remind everybody, I'm Andy from the RomaPress.net and Roma Press Podcast. This is our YouTube channel, and if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and also give us a thumbs up, a like on this live stream so that more people can see it and more people can join in as we move on with the show. So I'm just going to start reading up. Oh, we got AP all the way from the West Coast, our good patron AP. Thank you so much, AP, for that one like. It means the world to me. We got Nick, who I think, Nick, you messed up the colors. First it's yellow and then it's red, so it's on, it's giallo rossi, so first yellow then red. We got Rocco. I love Mourinho and I understand that this is part of what has made him so successful. However, we need him on the bench. These suspensions cost us ultimately, and I think that's where we can start. So obviously the opinion is split on this, as the opinions usually are split on what Mourinho says or does. Mourinho obviously prefaced the match against Sassuolo, which we ended up winning. He prefaced it by stating that his dislike for the Serie A official that was supposed to oversee the game, Matteo Mercenaro. He said he didn't like him because he had him on as a fourth official on a number of occasions, and he was never able to get a grip on the situation, to get a grip on what happened on the benches, right? The fourth official is supposed to be sort of the mediator between the referee on the pitch and what goes on the sidelines. And in Mourinho's opinion, Mercenaro didn't have the goods to handle a match as the main referee. Now, whether that is acceptable or not of him to say, I really don't know. What I can say from my personal point of view, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts, because I think that this is sort of where it all comes together for us fans, where we all have our own opinions on these things. And I honestly think that this has happened so many times in the past. You cannot set a rule right now. That should have happened long before. I do think that these comments by Mourinho definitely did not help Roma, did not help ease the tension that is there between Roma and the referees. And yet so many of these comments came way before that in the form of Maurizio Sarri, in the form of Gasperini. We had Massimiliano Allegri. I remember even, there's always been something, and it seems like this time around, I think this was uncalled for, both for Aya, so the referees association, and Mourinho himself. I think Mourinho misread the room, or perhaps, who knows, maybe he knew exactly what he was going up against. But as Rocco says, we are once again, looking at the prospect of not having Mourinho on the sidelines to some very important big games. Because I just want to, before I start reading any further comments, I just wanted to sort of conclude this, that tomorrow Mourinho will be interrogated. Tomorrow Roma will present their defense to the federal prosecutor's office, appointed by the FIGC, and a verdict will come out. Whether that verdict will come out before the game against Fiorentina, I seriously doubt it. If it happens tomorrow, I expect the verdict to come out next week, which means that there is a concrete possibility Mourinho may miss some very important games, as in the match against Napoli, perhaps the match against Juve. That's not what we want to do, right? We don't want to go into those games with that big question mark looming in our minds. Will we have our coach on the sidelines? Now, that has happened quite frequently in big games, and I think for Roma, for their players, given how busy the schedule is, this was definitely not called for. Now I'm gonna get to the comments. Mourinho is on his way out, to be honest. I have a feeling he will go to Chelsea. Why would he go to Chelsea where there is Mauricio Pochettino? I don't think that Mauricio Pochettino would walk away from Stamford Bridge right now. The way he is speaking seems he has nothing to lose anymore, which can be a positive or negative. I don't know if that's. I mean, I didn't think of it that way. I actually thought that he just went out of his way to make this comment. Maybe he didn't think it through too much. I don't have the impression that what we are seeing from Mourinho right now is a man who has nothing to lose anymore. Mourinho seems to be very tapped into what's going on with Roma. From his attitude, from the way he embraced that victory against Sassuolo, he knows that's not something you can take for granted, and he also didn't seem indifferent to it. So I think that is a far-fetched conclusion at this point in time, obviously. Nasser, hi. For how long Roma will keep that fourth place? Yeah, that's a good question, Nasser. I honestly always think back to that time where we got that third place last season, right in the spring, how difficult it was to wrestle our way into the top four and actually get to top three, and then how easily we slipped up, right? Because of those injuries, because of our way of playing in the league near the end, as we sort of shifted our focus to the Europa League. I just remember how painful it was, that slip up, that major slip up, where we went from being third to being, I think, sixth within like a few days time. So it is always definitely easier to get to a specific position rather than hold on to it, just because of how competitive Serie A is. We don't know what kind of team Napoli will be from now on. That's another unpredictable factor. We don't know if Atalanta will wake up from their slumber. Obviously, they've been decimated by injuries in recent weeks. We don't know what kind of Lazio we're gonna get from now on. They picked up their pace in Coppa Italia. They're through to the quarterfinals. So, and they hope to meet Roma, obviously, in the quarterfinals, which would entail Roma winning against Cremonese in January. So we don't know. We don't know a lot of things, and That's the bad part. The good part is we have to, we have to, because of that, we have to focus on what we can do as a team. And I think Roma at this moment can do a lot. You know, they have a lot of unexpressed potential. I think there's still a lot of things that they have to get better at, and things that are already working and I want to see more of. So we have to ship Smalling to Saudi ASAP. Him refusing treatment is a joke to me. Well, you're referring to the latest news we posted on the website, which is Chris Smalling has this nagging knee injury, which Roma have been trying to treat via conservative methods of physiotherapy that were also approved by an external surgeon in London because Smalling was hesitant, blah, 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 blah. And now there are reports that Roma would like to have Smalling undergo surgery in order to permanently resolve the issue in his knee, but the player continues to refuse this option. He is hesitant. He's 34. He's afraid that this might actually make things worse for him. And so there is tension. As always, there is tension at Roma, and the latest rumors are that he may be back only in February. That's obviously not good enough, and could prove actually could prove like almost like a final farewell for Smalling in January. I mean, I honestly think that if the return gets delayed to February for him, Roma will not bat an eye, and they will have to try and get rid of him. Ciao Andy, come stai? I'm good, Nino. Thank you. If it isn't teams yelling at the referees, it's the Lega implementing GoPro so that we can firsthand see the shit show of how IRFs work. That would be fun, right? Like the police cams, you know, like the ones, the cams that the cops use, you know, to document or not document whatever is going on in front of them. I think that would be that would be pretty cool. It would definitely bridge some of the tension and also just discrepancies in views of how a match unfolds between the managers, the teams, and the referees on the pitch and in the VAR. Because, you know, let's keep in mind Mercenaro himself doesn't even notice that the foul that Sassuolo commit on Leandro Paredes deserves a red. And that was such an evident, aggressive, unnecessary foul, where Paredes could have been seriously hurt. That yeah, that's an interesting situation where you have to like wonder, well, what was going through the referee's mind. And I think overall Serie A have to work on this better. They've been trying. They were supposed to be releasing these audio tapes right after the match. They're not released right after the match. Audio tapes from games are usually broadcast in a dozen, I think, 2 days afterwards, 3 days. Like once the smoke has blown over, that's when they release the. That's not good enough. You have to establish a clear line of communication as soon as the game ends. You know, I'm not saying question the referees because that's too aggressive, but at least make it clear where you stand, because it's clear where the teams stand. I want to know where the referees stand, and you cannot. And that's, I always hate it when it happens, when these things happen. Somebody makes a mistake, and say, for example, a referee makes a mistake, and all the other referees, they stick by him. No, admit it. You know, you get some of things wrong, just like managers do, just like teams do. You have to then go in, they go in front of a camera and they usually say, well, I messed up, you know. And when was the last time we saw that happen with a referee? Guys, we got 29 people. I'm excited because I actually didn't expect so many people to join us, but we only have 14 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button on this video so this live stream can reach more people can join us, and we can also grow as a channel, providing you with the latest Roma content. Further, we go into the comments. We got Justin. For Mourinho, the tension is a feature, not a bug. He wants there to be animosity with the referees. He wants them to feel like they're under pressure. Great. But But in Serie A, you pay. Unfortunately, if you're Mourinho right now, you pay. And um, this is not, I don't expect this to just go away. I don't expect this situation to just vanish. I don't expect Roma to come out, winning from this situation. I do expect a suspension, because the way the media and that particular world of Aya and Fiji representatives reacted to this does not look promising, does not sound promising, does not look like it bodes well for Roma. And Roma have a very important lineup of games waiting for them. We've seen Mourinho miss a lot of these games in the past. I don't think that in this particular stretch, the most difficult stretch of the season thus far, this was required of him. I understand there may be frustration, but Mourinho really went out of his way to make it a point how this guy is responsible, how this guy is not good enough. And listen, I get it. I'm not there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they say to each other. I don't know what's happened in the past, but still, there has to be some level of diplomacy that you preserve, because otherwise, hey, we might as well call it quits and have Salvatore Foti permanently on the sidelines, and not even him, because he's still suspended for the match against Fiorentina. So if Mourinho is suspended for Fiorentina, we got Nuno Santos on the sideline. All the news on Smalling are so disappointed. Yeah, disappointing. Yes, it's very disappointing. It's disappointing that once again, it seemed like that second season with Fonseca, where he was mostly injured for the majority of the season. That it seemed like something in the past, and last year he was so incredibly important to the success of this team. So good, so clean, so just accurate in everything he did, and vital for the solidity of the team. He was really the backbone of the team. That to then go from that to a season where you just have to basically not expect him to play anymore at all is kind of, yeah, it's kind of crushing, because he renewed. I don't take issue with the fact that he has a new contract, but I take issue with the fact that this is not a player we can say, oh, well, he's a bench player, and oh, he's a good backup option, so okay, we don't have him, we'll have somebody else. No, Smalling is the option. You may question whether that was a right move for Roma to sort of bet on Smalling as the option, but the Smalling from last year, no way you're letting him go, right? It's sort of like it's sort of like keeping Mkhitaryan after that first year with Mourinho. Obviously, didn't work out for us. I think Roma wanted to avoid that situation with Smalling this year. But injuries are injuries, and this is something that if a player doesn't have the right tolerance for pain, there's just no way of getting him back on that pitch, and that's the case for Smalling right now, and that's why Mourinho is constantly repeating the same mantras. And we are good, but we are still not there because we don't have some of our best players in Smalling. Something we like to forget. But I also just think from a personality standpoint, from sort of the communicating with other teammates on the pitch, very important. Now, whether that actually impacts the games and how Roma play them, I think at some point you have to find a way to compensate for his absence, but definitely it didn't make things easier to begin with. Like Mourinho said in one of his recent press conferences, Evan Dika was supposed to be a player that comes off the bench this year in order for him to then be promoted to a starter. But there had to, initially, Ndika was meant to go through a setup of, growing into that role, playing as a backup to Chris Smalling. Instead, you were forced to throw him into the mix, and that obviously brought its good and bad things along the way. I don't fully understand why, says Justin, but this is part of a pattern. Oh, you're referring to Mourinho. Yeah, I mean, honestly, listen, Mourinho may have been able to do these things and say these things in another lifetime. But right now, it's not. It's unfortunately, it's not helping. Like, this is not the context where these things really take off and lead you to success. That's unfortunately, if you say something against the referee right now, you're on a blacklist. And I'm pretty sure that Mourinho is the first name on Aya's blacklist and on the Fiji Cheese blacklist. I know Mourinho sometimes goes too far, but also so many others have done about the same kind of comments. None of them get punished, says Carlos, our good patron. Well, absolutely, Carlos. That's what I was referring to. This is not new. This is not new in Serie A, especially within last year, particularly because, as I said before, tension between referees and managers in Serie A is at an all-time high. You have Rocchi, the sort of the head of Aya, the former, obviously the famous Rocchi. Remember from that Juve game in 2015, 14-15, yeah, season 14-15, where Rocky is constantly meeting with clubs, with managers, trying to get them on board and trying to get them on friendly terms, but it's just not happening. Whether that is because of how these managers overreact sometimes, but whether it's because the referees are actually bad at their job, I don't want to say. I don't want to know. I don't know, but it's undeniable that right now it's not easy. And so these comments have been made repeatedly over these last few months. Maurizio Sarri, I think, went out of his way like twice already this season, actually naming referees that he didn't like. But nothing comes of it. So right now, Mourinho, along with Thiago Motta of Bologna, who went out of his way to really make a scene after the match against Lecce, both of them are being looked at, and it's weird. It's weird that maybe this is this means that this is a sign of things to come in terms of how these things are handled. Peter, our good patron Peter. Ciao, Andy. Do your arms still hurt from carrying all that water for Paredes? Wait, I go from being called a hater to now being a kiss ass for Paredes. Where is the middle ground? No, but honestly, my position on Paredes is I realized that the guy was called in for a job that he's not meant to do. He's being asked to do a job that he's not meant to do. For whatever it's worth, what he's being asked to do right now, he's trying his best at, and you can actually see that he puts in the effort. But I still don't understand why him and Cristante don't switch roles. I think that would benefit both greatly, or at least it would help make Paredes' life easier. But I definitely don't think that Paredes matches the same quality as Nemanja Matic, Peter. If that is what you're concerned with, no, obviously Nemanja Matic is a whole different caliber, level above Paredes. But we have to make do with what we have, right? We got who do we got? Wow, that's nice. A lot of comments. I like it. Thank you guys. Appreciate you all being here. I'm just gonna try and because I've missed some. Okay, we got Rocco. I hear other fan bases saying that Roma can't compete for top four because their squad isn't strong enough. Our squad isn't fit enough, to be honest. But other than Inter, no Serie A squad is so much better than Roma. Oh, I don't know. I would still put Milan ahead of Roma. I would still put Napoli. Napoli have a pretty bad defense this year, and then Napoli's defense is awful. But if they can figure that out, if they can put a band-aid on that, I still put Napoli in terms of squad ahead of Roma. But I do agree with you that, for example, with the Juve, there is not much discrepancy. There is a discrepancy in the fact that Juve play only once a week. That has allowed them to incorporate Massimiliano Allegri's ideas better, and therefore now they're just they're firing on all cylinders, playing exactly the way he wants them to. Great haircut. Thank you, Roman. Ready for clubbing tonight? No clubbing tonight, my friend. No, tonight is Thursday night. We'll see. We'll see about tomorrow. But honestly, I'm more of a guy who goes to on a live stream rather than to a club. That's. But I appreciate the hair compliment. um, we got Edmund. Fiji has clearly targeted Mourinho. Uh, I have no idea what that means, so I'm just gonna proceed. You guys, if I appreciate the comments, but some of them are not legible enough. So please just make sure that you type in the correct words, because sometimes the sentences stop midpoint and I'm helpless. Any transfer news, Andy? Can Roma return Renato to PSG? Asks Brian. Well, to answer your first question, I don't know which transfer news are news actually right now, because we are basically bombarded right all the time with the same questions about and the same news and the same links about this new additional defender. If you ask me, guys, if Roma will do something in January, my answer is yes, they will. What will they do? They will get an additional defender. That's it. End of story. There's not going to be two defenders. There's not going to be a defender and a midfielder. No, there's not going to be a defender and Marcos Leonardo. No, it's just in my opinion, based on how Roma have performed financially over these last couple of years, they're also their modus operandi in January. For me, Roma will only go as far as securing another defender so that Smalling's absence is not so evident, so that Van Dijk's absence throughout AFCON is not so evident, but otherwise the club will wait for Kumbula to recover, and then they'll just add another center back to the roster. With regards to Renato Sanchez, I honestly don't know if that is even an option that Roma are considering, sending him back to PSG. I think that could compromise the club's relations with PSG, who have no interest in paying Renato Sanchez for the entire duration of the season. They want him off their books. So I wonder how often Mourinho would be present on the bench if he was in Spain right now. Well, also it depends on the bench of what club. I mean, I don't want to. For me, conspiracy theories are bullshit. But the point stands that you're in a context. You're in a specific context. You're the manager of Roma, a Roma team that hasn't won Scudettos, that hasn't won multiple trophies. You've won one Conference League. Okay, in the league, you've always gone behind the top teams. You're not a top team right now, right? So I think that's where you stand. That's where you, as a manager of Roma, you need to know that, hey, this is not Inter in 2008, 2010. This is not Chelsea. This is not Real Madrid. This is Roma. And what you say here comes across differently than if you were to say the same thing in another context. That's my 2 cents. It's not me saying it's the world against Roma, but there is different factors involved. There's people look at you differently. Hi, Andy, said from Salt Lake City, Utah. Wow, fantastic. Thank you for waking up so early. That must be a really early wake up for you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Every Roma fan's prayer right now should be for all players to stay fit for at least the next 6 weeks. Absolutely. I agree with you. Then we have a chance to stay in top four. It's so key to at least keep the core fit for as you say 6 weeks until the beginning of January, because that's really when everything goes down. I mean, this is where everything all the questions that you want to answer with regards to Roma's long-term plans, with regards to Mourinho's future, with regards to Paulo Dybala's future, with regards to whether the club will be able to keep Romelu Lukaku, whether the team will succeed in securing Champions League football, whether the team will be able to actually go against the Champions League side and that will drop down in February and in the Europa League playoffs, and whether they will actually be able to focus both on the league and Europa League. This is where it all happens. This is where all these questions are answered. This is the moment for Roma. I think that's such a key point, and I'm pretty sure that everybody knows it, including the manager. I think Mourinho knows perfectly well what's at stake. I hope that the players know perfectly well what's at stake, because I think we've gone through so many versions of this Roma, right? Where, for example, John and I have been recording this podcast for well over 5 years now, and there's always a point in time, right, where we get to the difficult stretch of the season, or the stretch where we say it's make or break, and it seems like we both know what this entails, and then Roma, precisely at that moment in time, seem to absolutely forget what is at stake, and they often come up empty handed. And then you have to actually come on here and try to, make sense of a series of losses that results in you dropping out of this competition, that competition, and but I do think that if there is a lesson that Roma must have learned in these last 2.5 years with Mourinho, is that there is a time where things are sorted. Last year, that time came around. What was it? End of February, March. Yeah. End of February until beginning of April. That's when things really went down, both in the league and the Europa League. Same thing in Mourinho's first season, right? We turned it around in that game against, after that game against Juve. That game against Juve, where Juve complete an unbelievable comeback, 4 goals, right? That's where it all goes down. From there, Roma realized that what is at stake, well, their honor is at stake. They have to go seriously for that Conference League trophy. I hope that this is the moment where they preemptively show up, and that we don't have to bear any kind of disappointments. The last thing I would want to do is to regret a match against Napoli or Juve at this point in time. I think both these games right now are feasible, just as Fiorentina are very feasible. We can go back to the match that we will be playing this weekend against Fiorentina. It's difficult, yes, because Fiorentina are not that far off from us, but honestly, if Roma get it right, if Roma play the way they know how to play, because they know how to play, you can criticize, you can but there is something there. If they want to, they can get things done. That's when I think that's what happens is Roma go up against Fiorentina, and they have to get a result at all costs. There's, for me, that this weekend there is no excuse. Just get a new center back to replace Smalling, because I don't believe he will be back. Yes, I think that's the thinking. Can Roma buy the center back from Torino? Buongiorno. Are you kidding me? All those, I love it. All those rumors about Buongiorno and Torino. Buongiorno has a captain's armband at Torino. I don't know if you guys remember who was the last player to wear a captain's armband. It was Belotti. And do you remember the kind of offers that Torino refused for Belotti? 100 million? um, no, Buongiorno, definitely one of the rising center backs in Italy. But I think right now, especially in January, are you kidding me? to get Buongiorno in January from Cairo, the president of Torino, is an impossible task, no matter what club you are. Is Roma done with its financial fair play settlement obligations, or is it still under financial fair play restrictions going forward? Oh, it's very much under financial fair play restrictions. This is not going away anytime soon, guys. No, sit back, relax, and enjoy, as Roma will still have to generate the required 30 million in revenue next season. As they will have to operate in January as well under financial fair play restrictions. No, this is not going away. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I say in January, it's unrealistic to expect anything other than a defender. And also think about the kind of operation that you could make, not outright purchase, unless you're talking, for example, about Eric Dyer, who is on the last few months of his contract with Tottenham. Whoever Roma would need to get in that moment in time, it would have to be cheap and on loan. That's perhaps with an option to buy at the end of the season. Um, After watching our games, says Rohit, I realized that we need a defensive midfielder who sits there and mops every loose ball and breaks play, and who can just ignite our plays. A player like Fernandinho, Rodri, or Busquets. Yeah, well, it's nice that you mentioned basically generational players. No, but I totally understand, and that's what we've missed with Nemanja Matic being gone. Is we miss somebody who breaks up the play, and who creates a real link between the defense and the rest of the team. Right now, there is no link, because Cristante is free to roam around the pitch. That's what Mourinho wants of him. I don't know why that is right now. I mean, I think honestly that is something that you do not do with Paredes on the pitch. Meantime, Paredes is supposed to be the one, right, who stands in front of the defense, but that's not his thing. And so I agree with you. I don't think anybody on the roster can actually come in and do that. Bove is not that kind of player. He has to roam around. He has to roam around in a different capacity than Cristante. He's supposed to roam around and basically bite the ankles of the opponent. Renato Sanchez, obviously, we all know what he offers, or rather what he doesn't offer because of his numerous injuries. Pellegrini is still uh, out of shape. Pellegrini is still no good, and that's never been his forte to be set up in front of the defense. So honestly, Nemanja Matic, we miss you, man. You heard us, but we miss you. It's undeniable. Nino, seems like Smalling is entering into his own version of the end game Dzeko area. Well, but no, well, Dzeko, that was different. Dzeko, it was tension with the coach, and as in he didn't want to play anymore with the way Fonseca just considered moving on from him because Borja Mayoral was performing so much better. If it was up to Mourinho, Smalling would be playing game in, game out, but it's just not happening. Faizan, Smalling's injury has allowed us to see Llorente and oh, sorry, I lost you. Okay. Smalling's injury has allowed us to see Llorente and Indica. Llorente has improved our playing from the back. Indica needs to improve his defending, but he's a progressive center back. I think with Indica, it's clearly just a matter of time. It's something that you really need to work on him, but it's going to happen soon, that he's going to become really important to the team. Because again, the original plan was for Indica to come off the bench this year. This year, he was not supposed to be playing starting minutes, perhaps with the exception of Europa League and Coppa Italia. But Llorente, as you say, that's been a positive surprise to have Llorente, a player that once again you sign on a dry loan from Leeds United, right? The unlikely suspect who could just slot in to the defense and provide us with precious minutes. I think he's been by far one of the more consistent players this season. I like what I'm seeing from Llorente. He's been very impressive, perhaps with the exception of that with that goal against Inter, which we considered stupidly. You could argue he could have done more against Sassuolo as well, but overall, given the kind of player that we all thought we were getting in the first place, because mind you, like Llorente when he came on, I think many people thought that was a joke. You're bringing in an out of favor defender from Leeds United, one of the worst defensive sides in the Premier League, a side that ended up being relegated. What the hell? I have to admit, I'm very scared of Fiorentina and Bologna right now. I love how the mood swings up and down in this chat. We go from one day feeling like champions to another day being scared of Fiorentina and Bologna. Honestly, if there is a moment in time when you want to face Fiorentina and Bologna, this is the moment. Bologna have lost a bit of their mojo. They were unbeaten in recent weeks. They've lost that mojo. They don't look as sharp. Fiorentina, same, a team that goes through many, many, many ups and downs. The game against Parma could have been compromised very easily had Fiorentina not decided to at least try in the final minutes and realize that, hey, they're facing a Serie B team filled with 20-year-old kids who don't know how to play in high intense games. So I honestly think if there is a moment that Roma as in this Roma, want to face those two teams, it's right now. It's a good warm up for what is about to follow with Napoli and Juventus and then Atalanta and Milan. Being available is key, says Roman. Everyone would rather have Paredes than Sanchez. Absolutely. That's the same logic, right? Where we love Cristante and Mancini. Ciao, Andy, Ju. Haha, our good patron. Have we seen the last of Smalling in a Roma shirt? That's a good question. And that's honestly a question that as I write those articles that then I have to publish on the website, I ask myself that question more and more. It's depressing, honestly. Brandon, do you think this is Italy really targeting Mourinho in particular? He did 7 or 8 years in England, and he may have had 3 red cards. But in Italy, even with Inter, he went on a strike with the press and the referees. I don't know if that's specifically to Mourinho. I think it's just Roma itself as a club have gotten themselves so far down the list of favorable teams in Aya's eyes. Oh, even in Mourinho's first season, there was already tension. But even before that, guys, I mean, was always being. Uh, Paulo Fonseca was much more diplomatic in his way of addressing these issues, and he was still being shown red cards around. So I don't know if this is against Mourinho, but it definitely taps into this issue of Roma and the referees not really on talking terms, and it's pretty palpable when you have Thiago Pinto go on live television and say, well, the referees want us to say to he basically went on before Sassuolo and he said, well, Aya and FIGC, either they don't want us to go in front of cameras and say things that we think are happening to us, or they want us to talk, but they want us to say specifically things that they want to hear. So I think that says a lot about what happens behind the scenes and the tension that we get from it on the pitch. It blows my mind that Inzaghi has Frattesi coming off the bench. He's easily top 5 midfielders in the league. He's exactly what Roma need right now, along with a new center back. He would make us contenders. Well, but Rocco, it's in the past, right? It's in the past. Frattesi made his decision. Roma made their decision. Frattesi is not starting ahead of Çalhanoğlu at Inter, so I think Frattesi kind of knew what he was going in. He wanted to be part of a team that has serious chances of winning silverware. Now he's part of it. He's going to wait a year, stay on the bench. And then next season, off he goes as a starter for Inzaghi. Still, I honestly believe that it's just a matter of time. How do you feel about Lorenzo's slow comeback, says Nino? I think Mourinho is handling it super well. I think I'm just anxious to see him play more again. I think honestly, it's sad to see Pellegrini's role be so minimal because of those injuries, because he's still dealing with a lot of uncertainty and he's still not 100% back. Because I honestly think that hinders Roma as a team, definitely in the long run. Not having Pellegrini at his full capacity, not having Pellegrini at his sharpest and his most skilled, that's very detrimental, because you can, with Pellegrini in top form, you can easily make life easier for Paulo Dybala. On a night off, Paulo Dybala can sit on the bench. You have Pellegrini who can do similar things going forward in terms of giving the team an advantage and reading the open lanes for guys like Lukaku and El Shaarawy. That's what Pellegrini at his best can do, is he can read the space. He can make the space happen for guys that know how to get behind the opponent, who know how to bully around the opponent. Those are guys like El Shaarawy, Lukaku. Now you have Sardar Azmoun, who has shown great adaptability, has shown eagerness to learn, to work with Mourinho's giving him. I mean, against Sassuolo, there was a moment where he was playing as a midfielder. Awesome. That's what I want to see more of. Not necessarily as Sardar Azmoun as a starter, because I honestly think if something's working for you, don't overdo it, don't break it. If it's working for you that Sardar Azmoun is coming off the bench, if that is what Roma need right now, keep it that way. Don't overdo it. Don't push your luck. Right now, Sardar Azmoun is a great substitution off the bench in the second half. He gives Roma that edge. He gives Roma that bit of energy that they miss when they open those games and they start off slow. By being so flexible in what he can do, he allows other guys to really pick up the pace, and I like that. I want more of that, but that also goes back to Pellegrini. Is this is a guy who could make things happen for you, could change your fate in the long run. Missing him or having him only at 60%, 70% is just not good enough. At Roma, I want to aspire to greater things. That's what I think with Pellegrini. It's a shame. It's a shame because end of the day, he's the captain. He's important to the team. Rohith, I like Calvin Phillips, who is just rotting away in City. If we can get him on loan, it would be amazing. It would be perfect as a defensive midfielder for the US. I think Calvin Phillips was linked with Juventus. I'm not sure, but I do think that Juventus may be looking at him. Rocco, I agree. Fratesi is in the past, but it's relevant to discuss because Pinto may have fucked that up. Fratesi gave an interview where he said the Roma talks broke down. It wasn't about choosing Inter. I don't know what comments you've seen from Fratesi because he said so many things. Fratesi's decision came about a year and a half prior to his decision prior to his actual signing with Inter. So Fratesi had made up his mind to join Inter at the beginning of last season, basically. And then whether Roma tried to get it back on good terms with his agent, that's a whole other story. But those are things between club and agent. You have to understand that a lot of the times clubs work with intermediaries, agents. Usually players don't know anything until the very last minute. Those things work on and off. An agent may be in contact with several clubs at once, and then you only get one news story saying that, hey, he's dealing with this team, whereas in fact he's also talking to Inter. So honestly, with Fratesi, a player that was so highly wanted by everybody because he was wanted by Juve, by Milan, you may have fucked up, sure, but you're also talking about a player that left for over 30 million euros, loan with obligation. Those were conditions that Roma would never have been able to match. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Hi guys, just got home. Greetings from London, says Vladimiro. Thank you for joining us, Vladimiro. Gray and wet, but not cold. Forza Roma. Well, glad that you're in. We are just about to sort of sum up this whole session. So again, with regards to the Mourinho situation, expect a verdict to come in about his potential suspension within the weekend or right after the weekend. Because tomorrow the whole interrogation will be going down. Roma face Fiorentina again. I think at a moment that Roma should be facing Fiorentina. It's if you want to face a team that is filled with ups and downs, face them in a week that saw them play 120 plus minutes in the Coppa Italia, obviously with some rotations, but still. For the first time, I think in a long time, Roma actually hold the advantage of rest and versus fatigue, and that is something that we should not take for granted because I really don't recall the last time it happened. Is there a chance to sign De Gea? You mean in the summer? I don't know, and I don't think that would be a kind of profile that Roma would choose to replace Patricio with because I don't think the club want to. The club would want to send a 36-year-old goalkeeper away and then just to get another aging goalkeeper. If anything, Roma would look at the younger profile. That's my best guess. But hey, what do I know? I honestly think that is the last of Roma's troubles at this moment in time. Honestly, obviously with Patricio, it was touch and go at the beginning of the season. Right now, it seems to be steady, not great, but steady. So let's keep our fingers crossed that he can continue doing that way. Andy, do you live in Italy? I know John is in America. No, I live in Luxembourg. Well, officially, I live in Luxembourg, but then I travel a lot. So right now, I've been spending 3 months in the Canary Islands. I don't live in Italy at this moment in time, but I just move around. A lot, so you can catch me in a lot of different places. And John actually is coming down to Italy in a little bit. I think in a few days. So if you're in Rome, get in touch with John because he's going to be there. Okay, guys. Well, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe now. This is where you can find all the video episodes of the podcast. We will be recording a new episode later tonight with John. It will be released tomorrow. This is where you can find all the live streams and you can get notified whenever we schedule one. You can also help support the channel. You can support the website by becoming a patron, and you can do so by going to patreon.com/Roma Press. You get a lot of cool benefits. You can get early access to episodes. You get extra episodes, extra reaction episodes after games from John. You can get cool merchandise. So if you head to patreon.com/Roma Press, you select any plan you like, and that really helps us a lot in keeping this whole thing going. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it on such short notice and in the middle of the week with no games scheduled. So thank you so much. We will see each other most likely right after Roma play Fiorentina on Sunday as part of their next Serie A match day. So until then, guys, ciao, Forza Roma.